And then also going to link us to the live. And then I thought everyone could just, I've got the chat open. So if you guys have questions for Brenda as we're going on, we'll go ahead and take that in. And then I've also got the questions up from our Facebook group.
Good.
You know, when you wanted to, you know, that you had requested. So we'll can do those kind of towards the end, if that's okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, let me just make sure we're streaming. This is my second official Zoom live, so I think I'm getting better. It did finally go last time, so I'm just the devil's in the details, as they say. All right. Let's see. All right. Now we'll see what happens. Setting up. You guys are awful patient. I appreciate it.
Hey, as long as you're taking care of it, it's fine.
Okay, it says we're live on Facebook. I'm not seeing it come through yet. Just give me a quick second. I know Chris was trying to join us live, so I wanted to make sure we had a moment for him. Well, it says we're live, so I'm going to trust that because that's how we did it last time.
It says it here too.
Are you showing it live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Paula Pinyard. We're going to feature today our first guest for our 30-day Move It Challenge. Our challenge is all focused about just having continuous movement, consistent movement, I should say. And then so we can really bring in 2021 ready to go. Nobody wants to wait for the dreaded January 1 date. And I'm so excited today because we have our first guest speaker, Brenda Lee Lewis. You and I first met with it was a mastermind, wasn't it, Brenda?
Oh my goodness, it's been a long time. It's something like that.
yeah, I think we're in a mastermind. So she's got a great, well, she's got a couple of Facebook groups that I'm involved in. She's a trainer, and I'm just going to let her introduce herself and tell her story. And then she's got some great information for us about movement. And at the end of today, we also have an announcement for another presentation she's going to be doing next week, same time, same place. So thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, my name is Brenda Lewis, and or Brenda Lee Lewis, as I like to go by on Facebook. There's a lot of Brenda Lewises out there. I am in Buchanan, Michigan right now. We are at the very bottom of the state, far over to the west near Chicago. We're really not that far from Chicago. And I am originally from Battle Creek, Michigan, and most people know Battle Creek, Michigan because of the Kellogg cereal. And so that's kind of where I grew up at. I got involved in fitness about 14 years ago. Well, 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago. I had just had my fourth child. I had, you gain weight with each child. You get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was just feeling very lethargic, but I knew I wanted something more. So a friend of mine, we were opening up a brand new humongous big Y. She asked me if I wanted to learn to sub classes. I'd never been inside a gym my entire life other than high school sports, a few of those. But I, for whatever reason, just said yes. And so I got started in that, and it was just fabulous. And I latched on to personal training right away. I came in as a fitness instructor, latched on to personal training right away. I felt it was my knack. I was intrigued with it. I've never, in all these years, never not been intrigued with it. Always something new to learn, new people to meet, new people to work with, different bodies of all abilities. And it's been my passion ever since. And so when I first started there, the first couple of years, I got strong, lost a little bit of weight, but it wasn't quite enough. And that second year in there, I came across, because I'd already been taking some vitamins, and I came across a reset, which I think a lot of you probably have talked about. I did that reset, and it was just the best thing I'd ever done in my life. And that was the last 20 pounds I needed to lose, feeling great, learned a lot about low glycemic eating. So this is what has kept me on my path of where I am. And so I have 4 kids, like I mentioned. I have 1 left at home. The other 3 have now grown and moved out. And so here I am in the little town of Buchanan. I have my own studio now. I've been on my own for about 7 or 8 years. I've been in this building right here for 5 years, and I just love every minute of it. A couple years ago, I had a few clients that actually travel to Florida every winter, and I didn't want to lose them, so I practiced virtual training then. It wasn't my favorite, but I thought I want to stay in touch with them. They wanted to keep their results going. So lucky me, I got a taste of virtual training then, and I have just flourished with a virtual training for the last couple of years. And this year made it super easy for me to stay and to not be in some of the struggles that a lot of people are in right now. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And I've gotten really good at working with people online too. I'm really excited about that. So that's a little bit about me. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about fitness, and I tried to get a quick glance at the different fitness levels. And I think you have a variety, like most of us have a variety of fitness levels. So I thought that I would start with the basics. One of the things that I like to remind all of my clients is something called the 5 keys of physical fitness. Okay, so if you want to take notes, I'm going to go over those 5 keys. If you write down these 5 keys and get to know them, you cannot really go wrong in your fitness journey or your health journey. Okay, so the 5 keys of physical fitness. Number 1 is cardiovascular endurance. Okay, so if we were to talk about cardiovascular endurance, a lot of people would approach me and say, I can't get cardio. I can't move. I've worked with people who cannot move, all the way up to people like my daughter who do triathlons. Okay, so cardiovascular endurance, that is conditioning your heart and lungs to get the blood flow going, to make sure that you have energy in your body for your muscles, but even more so to keep your lungs strong and your heart strong. So cardiovascular endurance, that might mean, I'm going to just kind of start from the bottom and go up on levels here. So if you're somebody that is not somebody that maybe can even go for walks, there's lots of way to get cardiovascular endurance while you're seated even. Arm movement is the big one. Anytime that you can raise your arms up to shoulder level or above, and just repeatedly do it while you're breathing in rhythmic fashion on purpose, your heart rate will raise and you will gain cardiovascular endurance. So you would set a benchmark. Let's say the first day that you do that, you can go for 2 minutes. So then the next week you try to aim for 2.5 or 3 minutes, and you build yourself up from there while you're working on the other 5 keys. Okay, anything to help get the cardiovascular endurance going. Let's say that you're already a walker. Let's say that you walk every day. Let's say that you've been walking for 20 minutes a day. We are taught to teach you that you want to get at least 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise for 150 minutes per week. We used to say 30 minutes for 5 days a week, or most days of the week. Okay, so I like to just tell people, if you can get about 30 minutes a day with a rest day in there, you're doing good. As long as you're moving, your heart rate is up. And we're not talking about something where you sit down for a couple minutes and let your heart rate go back to normal. We're talking smooth and continuous. So whether it's a walk or a jog. If you feel like you've gotten good at walking on a regular basis, then you want to try either adding more arm work while you're walking. That will challenge you. I like to do this movement a lot with my ladies when we walk. Walk and talk will also keep your heart rate up. There's lots of ways you can look at this. So arm movement. So the next step up would be maybe to take 20 to 30-second jogs in there. Doesn't have to be a run. It could just be a jog. There have been times in my life where I would run for 100 steps and then walk for a while. Run for 100 steps and then walk for a while. You can pick any number that works for you, as long as it's just a little step up of a challenge from where you have been. So let's see. Should we go from there, Paula, do you think? Talk about, I'm not huge into running, but I have been getting into running a little bit more. I have finally got myself this year to where I can run a mile without walking, believe it or not, because I'm like a lot of other people. I spend my time working on everybody else. And so I had to learn to spend some time working on me this year. So yes, I can definitely run a mile straight through without stopping to walk. So I'm pretty proud of that myself. I'm working on 2 miles. So those are goals. If you maybe can run 1 mile, 2 miles, walk a little bit, and then run again. It's all about, there's a lot of apps out there that I know also help guide you. Walk, run until you can run for different lengths. And you just build from there, getting your cardiovascular endurance going.
What about, we've had some people report that they do kickboxing, or they might do, I mean, yoga is a big one, although I don't know how cardiovascular that one is, but you know, there's a lot of these different types, especially when we're all stuck inside. Yes. You know, the arms was helpful. So is there something else like cardio wise, like high knees, or I don't know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally forget about that. If you're stuck inside and you don't have maybe the machinery or things like that, there are definitely lots of classes you can follow online. Kickboxing is one of them. A lot of people, like myself included, will go into a kickboxing class, whether it's online or in person, and you think you've got to be like the instructor, but you really, really don't. You just got to move at your pace, okay? As long as you're moving continuously, you're fine. You're getting good cardiovascular endurance. There are even some group strength classes that I've done them myself. They're online also. If you're participating in a group fitness class that you are not used to, chances are you're going to gain cardiovascular endurance from that as well. But yes, high knees, stepping in place, sit and stand from your chair, jump jacks in place. There's a whole list of things. I have a gentleman that I work with at 3-minute intervals. He does his jump jacks are just modified. He does toe taps. He taps his toe to the side while his arms go overhead. That's cardio right there. We'll move from that to just raising the knees, standing in place and raising the knees. And then we call it mini squats or mini jump squats, just mini movement. Anything that is continuous and keeps you going will keep your heart rate moving for you. It doesn't have to be super high. It just needs to be up from a rest state. Okay. And of course, at any point in time, if you feel lightheaded or dizzy, you would want to walk around until you recover slightly. Another thing, which I meant to bring it over here, I got this at Walmart. It is a hand pedal. It's about this big. You set it on your table and you pedal with your hands. It's about $20, $25. It's fabulous. I practiced with that myself. I sat in front of my TV and pedaled with my hands before. I just wanted to pretend I was different clients and see what it felt like. That is a fabulous idea, to sit there and pedal with your hands. Your heart rate will go up. And before I get too further, while we're in the cardiovascular section, I want to talk about the heart rate. Back in the day, we used to talk about heart rate levels, and you'll still see those scales on some of the machinery. What is fat burning? What is cardio zone? And all of those kinds of things. I really don't use those anymore, because anybody that is on blood pressure medication, heart medication, and there's a few other medications that actually can affect your heart rate. We don't want to use a heart rate number to follow if you are on any medications like that. So we use what's called an exertion scale. It's a scale from 1 to 10. 1 means you're like laying in bed reading a book, so you're not exerting yourself at all. And a 10 means you've exerted yourself so much that you think, or I used to tell my clients, I might have to call an ambulance for you. Okay, that's what a number 10 is, that you have that momentary feel of, I think I might pass out. We never really want to be in the 10, okay? But we need something to describe it with. I do challenge a lot of my clients, doesn't matter what level they're on, because everybody's level 7 is different. So I challenge people to stay between a 6 and 8 for their cardiovascular endurance. And once in a while, when I have an advanced client that's working on things, we touch number 9 periodically. Okay. That's kind of getting a little bit more into the advanced, but for most people, if we stay between a 6 and 8, and a 6 means, I really wish I had a way to share that little scale, but I'll post it. If you remind me, Paul, I'll post it in the group.
Okay.
A 6 is more like, I can tell I'm working, but I can get a couple sentences out without having to take a big breath. Okay. So I can carry on a conversation while I'm cycling or walking or pedaling or moving my arms. I can still talk to you. Getting up to a level 8 is where you hear, I got to catch my breath. Hold on. I can't finish that sentence. Okay. So I think that's really the best way to gauge your exertion levels when you're working out in any form. Okay. So that's regarding your heart rate.
Before we move to the next one, sorry, I know
Yeah.
I don't know what time frame you're looking at, but one thing I was going to ask is because we do have, and I think you touched on this with the exertion level from 6 to 8, but we have some people in the group that have been working out a lot. We have ex-military, we have another woman, she, I don't know if you saw her post, but she did a kickboxing, then she did 30 minutes of cardio, then she did a stretch, and then she was going out to do another thing, so I think her level is up. One thing I've always challenged myself, and sometimes I think, well, Paula, you're just not pushing yourself hard enough.
Yeah.
Versus, you need to, how do you know when you need to push more, because I do want to get stronger, faster, right?
Yes.
But sometimes it's like, when do you okay, that could damage you.
Yes.
Or, how do you I want to keep escalating, but to do it safely. I guess maybe that's the kind of the question.
Got you. Well, first of all, let me make sure we're on the same page, or that we're all on the same page regarding the exertion level. And I'm going to use Paula and Chantel as an example. Just, I know you slightly, but let's say that my capacity is I have to do cardio in my chair. Okay. And let's say that, Paula, I think that you've been running a little bit. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So Paula's into running. And let's say that Chantel doesn't do any running. She's just at a walking level for cardiovascular exercise. My level 8 in a chair is a level 8 to me, but it's going to feel the same to Chantel in her walking world. Okay. So a level 8 is a level 8 no matter who you're talking to. So the person that you're talking about that did the kickboxing and the stretching and the other things, her level 8 is still a level 8 to her, but it might not, for me being in a chair, it's going to look like a level 12, but it's really her level 8 and I've got my own level 8. Okay. So I want to make sure that we talk about it, because I've had that experience with clients before. They're like, I could never reach a level 8. And I'm like, well, this is your level 8. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like to guide people. If you get to know your own exertion levels, then let's say Paula has been doing some jogging and some stretching, or maybe sometimes we do some skipping or jump roping in order to be better at running. If you're doing a whole bunch of that and you've been going for over an hour, you want to ask yourself, have I been hitting that level 8 for a long time? Have I been touching on level 9? Do I need to take a break? And there's a lot of other things we're going to talk about when we get down to item 4 that you'll want to take into account also. But yeah, it's definitely about your own benchmarks, your own experiences as to whether or not you should keep pushing yourself. So as a quick example, my daughter, who lives in Florida, she did a triathlon on Sunday at the Daytona Speedway or Raceway, whatever it's called. And it's warmer in Florida, but it's cold, right? It's cooler to them right now. And so inside that big raceway, they build a man-made lake, and the water was still very cold. Now, my daughter's been doing triathlons for the last 3 or 4 years. But she did that triathlon, and it about broke my heart because she made a post about it. but she got into the water and it was so cold, it gave her a panic attack. And she said to herself, oh, so many people talk about pushing themselves, you know, you got to push yourself, got to push yourself. She ended up pushing herself through it, but mostly because I think a lot of the, you know, they have helpers in kayaks to help pull you out of the water when you need it. It was full of people and there was no room. So she treaded on, and she looks back now that she ended up causing her body panic and asthma that she's going to struggle with all week. So she learned her own benchmark of where she should push and not push. And as much as I hate to say it, we all have one of those experiences that says, I now know my level. I know my threshold or my limit to where I'm not going to push over that limit.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe that kind of gives people a little bit of an idea. So
yeah, that's helpful.
Sometimes what happens is people end up getting like a flu-like symptom. A couple years ago, I had somebody do that. They ended up getting the flu the next day because they pushed past that point. But then again, it's never happened since because now she knows her level. I certainly not saying push yourself to that point, but I'm saying if it happens, you'll know. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Gotcha.
right. All right. Chris is saying that happened to him after a mud run. Yes, I believe that. Okay. Number 2 is muscle strength. Okay. Muscle strength. Muscle strength is, if I were to give you a simple definition, is how much of a heavy thing could you pick up one time? It's so heavy, but you could pick it up about one time, but you couldn't pick it up several times. Okay. So like if we're talking something in the home, like a big heavy bag of dog food, a bag of salt that you carry in for the water softener. It might even be just a bag of groceries, whatever that is. That's where we talk about muscle strength. Okay. So it is important to build our muscle strength for everybody. And I'm just going to say that when you build muscle strength, you're building muscle mass. And that is important for everybody over 30. And it is especially important for us women throughout our entire lives, especially when we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Building muscle mass, that is a whole nother subject that I will talk more about next week, okay? But you want to gain that muscle mass. And I promise you, out of all the women that have ever said to me, but I don't want to look bulky, I never have seen one happen yet. They just can't eat enough to make that happen. Believe that or not, you will 99% of the time not eat enough to make that happen because it takes a lot of food to build that kind of muscle mass. Okay. So building muscle mass is important. Being strong is important so that you can lift heavy things. One of my favorite stories, really quick. I learned this years ago in a seminar. A grandmother out in California. She was 60 or 64. She, one of her grandchildren somehow got pinned under a car, the tire of a car, and out of just pure adrenaline, she went out and lifted that back end up so they could pull that child out. And she was so shocked at it that she hid away for weeks because it was just so traumatic. And this person that was giving the seminar wanted to go interview her. And for months he tried, she would not have anything to do with it. He happened to be in California one day. He actually showed up on her doorstep and begged to talk to her. And what he found out was that she was so bothered by the fact that she had that power to do that she thought she had wasted her life. And so he asked her, well, what do you really want to do with your life? And she said, I always wanted to be a geology teacher. He said, well, what would it take to make that happen? She said, 4 years of college. And he said, why wouldn't you just try it now? Just go do it now. And she thought, but I'll be 64. And he's like, you're going to be 64 no matter what. and the true story was that she did that and she was very, very happy. So anyway, building strength, that can be mental strength and physical strength. Okay. How do you build strength? Let's say you have dumbbells at home. You're going to lift heavy reps. Short reps. So let's say arm curls. I'm just going to throw a few examples and then you can ask me some questions, Paula. Arm curls. Let's say you're doing arm curls with 10-pound dumbbells. You're doing arm curls, 10-pound dumbbells. If that's really heavy to you, you might only get somewhere between 4 and 8 repetitions. Okay. We're just throwing that out there. And we're going to talk on the next section about what happens when you use lighter weights and more reps. But for strength, it's heavier weight, less reps. You want to feel fatigued by set 3. That's how I like to tell my clients. There's a lot of people out there that and a lot of studies that have shown you, 1 set or 2 sets are just as fine. I still teach and I still train 3 sets most of the time. By the time they get to the 3rd set, they shouldn't be able to do all the reps, because if you can, it wasn't heavy enough. Okay. So that's how you know, is if you're supposed to do 8 reps and you only made 6 on the last set, you did fine. You did perfect. Okay. And that goes with squats or push-ups or shoulder presses. And so maybe we should take a moment to talk about, what if you don't have dumbbells? Okay. What if you don't have dumbbells? Push-ups, squats, and some of those things can be done from a chair, on a chair, from a countertop. Lifting your salt bags of water, and yes, Chris, lifting gallons of water. There's a book out there called The Water Bottle Workout. It's really kind of cool. It's how to use water bottles for your weight when you want to strength train. Yeah, there's lots of ways to get that in when it comes to strength training. Although body weight tends to fall more into muscle endurance, which is number 3, what we're going to talk about. Okay. So let's move on to number 3. That's usually an easier one for people to jump into: muscle endurance. So number 2 is muscle strength. Number 3 is muscle endurance. And muscle endurance means lifting weights for longer periods of time. Okay, lifting weights for longer periods of time. I like to use the example of carrying your little baby on your hip. How many hours can you carry your little baby on your hip, or your grandchild? Sometimes you got to switch arms, but that's muscle endurance. That's where your muscles have the ability to endure something longer and not just something super heavy. Okay. And that's where I like to talk about things like body weight exercise, like push-ups. And whether those push-ups are on the floor, I actually have a lot of people that I start out, they put their hand on the wall and we do 1 arm or 2 arm push-ups on the wall. I like to teach them to isolate the muscles into the arms so that they're not just, so that it feels like a challenge to them. Everybody wants to feel like they're having a challenge, and they think wall push-ups are easy. They're not. If you're doing them right, wall push-ups are not easy for any. I can make them strenuous for anybody, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So with that said, wall push-ups are fun. You can go from wall push-ups down to chair push-ups, down to kneeling floor push-ups, down to regular toes and hands on the floor push-ups. Okay, there's so many versions of a push-up that you can do. And then squats. I almost always start my clients out, if they come in and tell me they can do a squat just fine, I say, let me see. And then if I almost always inadvertently go right to the chair, I make them sit. I have them position their feet, and I teach them how to stand up from that chair before we go into squats, because most people don't have, I'm not gonna say they don't know how to, but they don't have the mental connection between the brain and the butt cheeks, the brain and the thigh muscles, the brain and the hamstrings, and the brain and the calf. I mean, there's so many muscle groups your brain needs to specifically connect to really functionally move well. And so that's where we start. I start my 16-year-olds from the chair. I start my 76-year-olds from the chair, and we go from there. And then when they're good at standing up from the chair, I tell them to stand in front of the chair, squat and tap their butt and come up. Because if they can tap the butt and come right back up, everything looks good. That's the next step. Then we move on to regular squats. Then we move on to holding something either on the shoulders or in the hands and squatting with that. So those are really great muscle endurance for the lower body. And then of course, push-ups are good muscle endurance for the upper body. What are some ways to work your back? Hopefully most of you have heard of the Superman, where you lay on your belly and you exhale, lift. Those are fabulous for backs. We don't really strengthen our back very often, and those are really, really good. There's a lot of different versions of the Superman exercise on the floor. Check them all out because they're all very good. I have a couple versions that I use for different people that are really rounded right here. and they're tight through the chest. I have a version where it's just the upper body, and we practice going like this and release, this and release. So many ways you can work. You can do that move right there sitting in a chair and still work your back, okay? I have lots of, for muscle endurance, some of my favorites are just driving your elbows back, squeezing your shoulder blades together. I have ladies, I've taught them to do that for 3 minutes in a row. They'll go between this and this and this, and I get them to go for 3 minutes in a row. It's the best, some of the best things that you can do for your rotator cuff muscles. Okay. So matter of fact, we all notice, I myself included, I had never trained myself to do 3 minutes of that stuff before, but this year I did almost a full pull-up, and I hadn't done one in a few years. And so I was really impressed because I saw that in my clients also. We were able to get a lot more strength training in a better way because we strengthened these shoulder muscles in there. Any other questions about the endurance part? I might be missing something. I get going off on tangents.
Anyone's willing to answer questions. Everyone's unmuted. This is totally,
okay.
you know, whatever you guys, if you guys have any questions, just chime in. We want to keep this, you know, give you guys some real value, and she's here. So
yeah, I'm just going to give you a second and see if anybody has a question about that. It's one of the more popular sections. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah, can you back up far enough and sit on a chair and show the appropriate way to do that, from sitting on the chair to getting up?
Yes, I will. I thought about putting my iPad out in the middle of the floor to do this, but then I was like, I wouldn't be able to see everybody very well. So let me pull my office chair up here, and I will show you that. It should not move on me. We should be able to make it happen. Okay. All right. So have you sit at the edge, position your feet, and then sit back down. See, I'm almost fall back. That's because I let go of the core to look over at you guys. Okay? So the core needs to be engaged, and plus I'm going to back my chair up to this right here. So you would want to use a sturdy kitchen chair. Okay. Don't ever use a roller chair to begin. Just don't. All right. I like to use my hands for balance. So I'm going to push through my heels, engage my thigh, my butt, and my belly. And I exhale because that's how you use the core. Okay. Back down. And I make my breathing noisy just for the effect so everybody can tell where to exhale, okay? So then when you advance to butt taps, it's just tap and stand, tap and stand. So I'm using belly, butt, and thigh. That's the main ones, and with the breath, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
great.
How about you, Kathy? You have any questions?
Nope, just taking it all in.
Good, good.
Lots to learn.
I'll try to remember, and Paula will probably help me remember this, but I have some short videos on the arm work. I think that's one of the most important things that, especially as females, can do, because once we hit a certain age, which for me was probably about 40, we just don't do this much anymore. You know what I'm saying? We don't reach overhead, and when we do, we get kinks and we get aches. And so that's probably been one of the best things that I've done with my ladies.
Videos would be great.
Yes, and I do it right along with you. Not all of my videos do I do along with you because it can take a long time, and I don't like people to go at my pace. I like you to go at your pace. But this particular video, I do talk you through it because everybody wants to stop at 60 seconds. All right.
Maybe they'll need to for the first couple of times, but you got to keep pushing, pushing, pushing.
Exactly, exactly. That is very true. But whenever you first start something, be nice to yourself. Yeah, don't try to push it hard. Let yourself visit it once, maybe visit it twice, and then challenge yourself out the third time that you do it. Okay. All right. Okay, so if we move on to number 4, which is flexibility. Flexibility. So that is the range of motion about a joint, how much that joint range of motion you have. So for example, I have a 76-year-old male client, his right side, he can only get it up this far, okay? As soon as he gets up this far, the whole body goes with him. because he's got a plate back there, and then he, for years, never did the exercises he was told. This arm, however, will go way up here, okay? So he has limited flexibility here, lots of flexibility here. Whether or not you can bend over and touch your toes says a lot about your hips and your low back, okay? Whether or not, one of the tests that you can do is, can you touch your fingers by putting one arm overhead and one arm behind you, okay? I can do it with my right arm up. I don't know if I can do it this way. I can't really do it this way. So we all have a dominant side and a not so fun side, because that's just the way we live life with our dominant behaviors. So, but that's one way that you can tell how flexible your shoulders are. And then touching your toes for your hips. And then the knees. Let's talk about the knees. Boy, those knees are something else. Range of motion. Can you hug your knee to your chest? Can you lay on your stomach and pull your heel to your rear end? Okay, those are just some things that I look at when I'm working with people, what their range of motion is in their knees. So this particular client I'm talking about, he's got one right knee that it's really close to a knee replacement. So the right knee does not go past a 90-degree angle very well. But you know what? We're working with it slowly. We're making progress. And I'm not saying it's ever going to get to be fabulous, but it's going to be better than what he's used to. So flexibility. How they guide you in flexibility is this is generally what's said is you want to stretch after every workout. You want to stretch your major muscle groups, and your stretches should be from 10 to 30 seconds per stretch per limb. Okay. So 10 to 30 seconds per stretch per limb is a good way to look at that. And now might be a good time I'm gonna kind of list off the 8 major muscle groups. I think that's important to know. And Paul, I really should just prepare a little PDF or something and put it on the group. But the 8 major muscle groups, this is how I taught my kids class. It is quadriceps or thighs, okay? The front of your leg. Quadriceps, hamstrings, back of the leg. Abdominals, back, chest, shoulders, bicep, and tricep. And then we like to add the calf in the end, your calves, okay? So if you can work on making sure you stretch each of those muscle groups, hopefully that list will make it a little easier to help you find what is your favorite stretch. I have clients and they all have different favorite stretches. Whatever one that you do the most is good. Because a lot of people don't do them. That's the one thing. If I've learned anything over the past 2 years, is that a lot of clients will not do their stretching at home. So I change my training so that all of the last 15 minutes is spent stretching for sure. Because a lot of people, they're like, I'm paying you, I just want the good hard workout. And I found that if I just kept doing that, they just got tighter and tighter and then they had injuries. So it's not worth injuries. So plus I figure if I tell them this is how I do it, this is how I train. If you want to come to me, we stretch or do some sort of recovery work at the very end. And then it creates that feeling for them where they're like, okay, yeah, you're right, which has went wonderfully so far.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions about the flexibility part?
I just thought it was interesting what you said about the gentleman with his knee, because I would think, that the flexibility, it seemed like, it was an injury. And when I see that you can't like put my knee to my fanny would be like, are you kidding? Well, it's just, I'm not strong enough or there's something wrong, but to put it into a flexibility state, it's like, oh, okay, that's helpful.
Things that they
Yes.
can make a whole
Absolutely.
entire copy of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Get a
Does
couple copies.
Anybody else have a question about flexibility? No? All right. All right, well, that is a very, very important one. So let's not forget flexibility. um, Body composition is number 5. Body composition.
Mm.
Very important to just have an understanding of what body composition is. Even if you never have your body composition measured or tested, to know what it is really important. That's something I didn't even know until 15 years ago. I mean, we just always think we're just fat or not fat, you know, and there's just so much more to it. Body composition is the ratio of body fat to body mass. Lean body mass, it's called lean body mass. So it's a ratio of how much body fat you have to everything else that's in your body, okay? That's your blood, your bones, your muscle, your organs, your water, you know, everything else. So it's a ratio. Your body composition is a ratio. How do you get your body composition measured? The most common way today is a handheld sensor, okay? You can pretty much buy them on Amazon, probably for $20. I don't highly recommend them, except other than maybe a benchmark. I don't feel like it's very accurate. Plus you have to have, you know, your skin has to be right. Your hydration has to be right for it to change. And so then you can pay a little bit more money and you can get a one that you stand on. And that will also give you a body fat percentage. It'll give you a hydration percentage. It'll give you your body mass percentage. Those two machines work with bioimpedance. So it sends a little electrical, what's the word I'm looking for? It sends electrical charge through there, or current, or whatever you want to call that, whatever it's officially called. It sends little electrical things through, because the electrical stimulant, I'll just call it a stimulant, it's not really a stimulant, but when it goes through a muscle cell, it goes at one speed. And when it goes through a fat cell, it goes at a different speed. And that's how it measures your body composition, okay?
Mhm.
The other, you know, like I said, the issue with that is if you're not hydrated, it's not going to go through any cell very well, okay? So they are better than nothing. I do have a handheld one. I don't use it much. At the local rehabilitation here in the town nearby, Lakeland Therapy, they have a Tanita scale. It is a large one. You stand on it, and it can hold people up to 500 pounds. You also have hand things that you hold, as well as stand on it barefoot. So it does the bioimpedance through the hands and through the feet, okay? It costs like $5,000. It's really super expensive, but it's a lot more accurate. They put the technology into that. So that's a more common one that you're gonna find in a lot of places. A popular one that you'll hear about from trainers is a bod pod. That's where you sit in a little egg-shaped unit that looks like an egg. It's called air displacement. So you get in and it does something with the air based on how much air or how much space you've taken up and displace that air. It gives you a body composition measurement. I've seen more and more of those lately. The official one that they say is the most accurate is hydrostatic weighing. You're probably not going to find that except at a very large university, or maybe, you know, a really well-known physical therapy kind of place, but usually it's somewhere where they have a large pool and they really get into the measuring of things like that. So I personally do skin fold measuring. What is skin fold measuring? I take your body in 7 parts and I go like this. I grab your fat, I squeeze it, and I pull it away from the muscle, and I have little calipers that squeeze and measure that in millimeters, okay? I do that for, we start back by the shoulder blade, the tricep, chest, side of the belly, belly button, thigh, and your calf. And then I put all those together in a little chart, and it gives me this calculated number and tells me what your approximate body fat percentage is, okay? The only thing it does not do is does not tell you what visceral fat is. Visceral fat is all the fat deep in your belly, okay? We can't physically measure that. You know, not without going inside you. So you can't physically measure that. So I usually take my circumference measurements that I do with the tape measure. I go around those same areas in general. I measure the umbilical, and And I kind of go from there and to say, hey, you know, we need to work on the visceral fat, or it's not a high priority. For women, 35 inches and over puts you at high risk. For men, 40 inches and over puts them at high risk. And that is the abdominal measurement. So around the belly button, parallel to the floor, okay? And that's just a couple of the important things that I always like to share with people. So having an idea of what your body composition is important. Even if all you did right now today was take a tape measure and measure your hips at the widest part and your abdominal measurement, and then stepped on a scale, you have got a decent benchmark for watching what your body does, okay? Any questions about body composition?
And there's something funny with this thing. So if you guys have a question, please unmute yourself. It's the little toggle down in the lower left of your screen. Something happened and I didn't want to mute Brenda, so I thought I'd just ask you to unmute if you had a question. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So those are the 5 things: cardiovascular endurance, muscle strength, muscle endurance, flexibility, and body composition. Okay. Working on those 5 things, you can take yourself to great places. Okay. Sometimes a better way to look at this is I will tell people to write down these 4 things: push, pull, bend, twist, mindfully and carefully. But if you can work on those things, you will also keep your body moving and in good shape, and somewhat flexible for the most part. The twisting is probably one we don't do safely very often. So one thing that I like to do is I will have somebody sit in a chair and they'll turn to the side. Now I have arms here so you can't, but they'll be right up to the back here. Grab the chair. And it's a beautiful torso twist. Feels really good on the back. We really need to do that more often, but be mindful. If it feels tight, don't force it, okay? Just exhale with all your stretches. Stretch, okay? Because exhaling allows your body to go into parasympathetic mode, which is the relaxation mode. Inhaling can put your body in sympathetic mode, which is fight or flight. Okay, so you always want to make sure you do got to inhale, but you want to make sure you're exhaling on your stretches. Okay.
I'm practicing.
I know. I was like, oh, good job, Paula. Okay. So with that said, I want to, if there's no questions about from here, I'm going to go over the couple questions I saw, and maybe Paula wrote down some more. All right.
Does anybody have any questions about what you're hearing or seeing? Okay.
Good. So one question was, Chantel asked, should you do cardio or weights first? And that is what we trainers call the question of forever. And this is my theory on it, because some trainers do have a theory. This is my theory. Some people just plain do better with a cardio first. It becomes a nice warm up. Some people like to use that cardio after their weights it could be a cool down, or it could be what I call burning the rest of the lactic acid out. Okay. There are studies that will prove both ways, that one's better than the other. Then there's studies that will say neither. It doesn't matter. So I like to tell people, you do what feels right to you. And I know that's not a definite answer, but I'll tell you my own personal preference. I've done it both ways. I definitely love a little cardio before strength training, because it gets everything moving. The blood is flowing through the whole body. I'm 51 and things are not always warm right away. So I like to get warm before I start lifting weights. And it's really the right thing for everybody to do, no matter what kind of weightlifting you're doing, whether it's light or heavy. You want to make sure you have good blood flow going through the whole body. So I definitely like to do some before. My favorite lately has been to get my 1 mile walk in. And then I'm feeling very motivated to do all kinds of things after that. And that 1 mile walk for me can be anywhere from 18 to 25 minutes, depends on my mindset for the day. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't do a 1 mile walk to achieve medals. I do it for my mindset and for just getting the blood flow going. Okay. And then one last thing that I'll share is doing cardio after strength training, because with cardio, you're inhaling, exhaling. And every time you exhale, you actually are exhaling toxins. You're actually exhaling the exhaust from your workout, we'll say. And so that's actually very healthy to have that cardio after also. Okay. So a little secret for you all, and then I'll get to Chris's question there. Did you know, where does your fat go when you lose it? Where does fat go? I mean, I want somebody to try to just, what do you think? Paula, tell me what you think. I don't know if we've talked about this. I found this out in the last 2 years. I did not know this technically. So it's very, very interesting.
Well, I'll say, just based on your comment, that it goes out our breath.
I know. Yeah. Like that was a dead giveaway, wasn't it? Like I got all excited. I'm like, oh yeah, guess where fat goes? Actually, we do. We exhale it out. There is, I have a YouTube saved. And my client, I have a client who's 83, he's a retired chemist. And even he knew this. And I was like, how did you never tell me this? But we do. We exhale at least 85% of that body fat out of us because of how our body turns it into waste and eliminates it. So if you've ever had anybody tell you that breathing is important, breathing is really important. And here's the thing. I have had clients that are very sticklers, like they don't want to be breathers. They don't want to make noise. They don't want me to hear them breathing. And they are very constrictive with it. They have the hardest time losing weight. So just remember that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me see. Chris said, do you recommend drinking water before working out or during? Absolutely. I definitely make sure I'm getting water throughout my whole day. That's become a new thing for me over the last 2 years. It helps menopause. It helps all kinds of things. Water. During a workout, about every 15 minutes, especially if you're sweating or breathing heavy, you want to make sure to get a few ounces in every 15 minutes. There's an actual formula for it, but I find that everybody's different. I have some people look at me and say, I really don't want to drink water. So I'll just monitor the progress and whatnot. But by at least 30 minutes into a workout, I make sure everybody stops for water. But usually people will carry a water bottle so they can at least sip it. That's appropriate during a workout. And then of course afterwards would be ideal.
Good question.
Okay. One more that I saw, you might have asked this, Paula, what advice would you give to change your running pace or cadence? Did you see that one? Was that you that asked that?
You kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry. The question was, what advice would you give to change your running pace or cadence?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm kind of really, it's been so many years since I've been involved in running. I'm just going to kind of give you one cue that helped me change my running cadence or my running pace this year. I don't know if I even told you, Paula. I've been getting some medical massage therapy done over this last couple months. And before I started getting that done, I do have tight hips, I have tight shoulders. But I was running a mile on the treadmill in about anywhere from 11 to 13 minutes. 11, I only got 11 a handful of times, if that, but my average was 13 minutes, 11, 12, 13 minutes. I had 3 weeks of this work done on me once a week, and she really worked on my hips. And after that third time, the next day I got on the treadmill and I started running, and I was like, wow, I feel free. I feel free, uninhibited. The feeling was amazing. And so I finished the run. I got done. I looked down at my watch. I was like, 8 minutes and 58 seconds. What the heck? I was like, that's got to be wrong. And so I did a little stretching. Got some water. And then I got back on. I said, I just felt good enough. I did another one. And again, it was 9 minutes. And I said, wow. So I videoed myself to watch this. it opened up my hips and my upper body enough that my body was able to run in better strides and more free. I could breathe better. My hips moved better. So I guess I would, if I had to pick a direction, I'd say work on your flexibility and your mobility, because
Yeah.
it's really going to help any kind of running or even a walking cadence. I despised walking up until about a year ago because I just couldn't figure out how to keep my hip from bothering me from walking. And lo and behold, as much as I think I know about muscles, I know so little. And this lady is fabulous because she loves working with me, and she will give me pointers. She will talk to me about different situations.
Sorry.
And it was just fabulous. So
Good. Well, I kind of had a similar experience because I noticed when I was running, like all my sweatshirts would be twisting.
oh yeah.
And so I was going to chiropractic. I had some injuries with my neck and stuff. And as I worked through those, appointments, then, pretty soon I wasn't stretching, I didn't have to shift it, and I hadn't realized that. And there's like a connection between your upper body and how it helps your legs move. So your upper body is supposed to be working during run. I always used to think, well, my legs are working, my arms aren't doing anything. Well, that I learned differently.
Yeah.
But I did notice a big difference with that. And then something else, I had a great massage therapist too. And she was very intense, especially on the hip flexors. Like, she'd say, don't hit me, but it was very good. And then she transitioned me into using like a foam roller. And so that's what I'm hoping in this 30 days to just, because flexibility it doesn't feel like you're working out, it's like, I'll do that later. And you never do, like you said. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. The best thing that you can do for yourselves when and walkers alike should be doing this flexibility and mobility work, is to commit with someone else and hold each other accountable, because it gets boring. It gets, myself included. If I hadn't had the results, I'm geeked about it now, but even for myself, I'm like, Brenda, you got to set the example. And so I would do it. And now that I have my son's gonna be 15 in a few months, and I really had to set the example for him because these kids have poor posture and he's very athletic. And so if I don't set the example for him now, he's not gonna ever do all the right mobility and stretching and things. So that's a whole nother subject, but yeah, for sure. And then I just want to read, I saw Chantel said Pilates helped a great deal. Absolutely. You know what? I just had my teenager ask, not my teen, but a client. She asked me, well, should I do Pilates? What's Pilates? I was like, oh my gosh, you need to go do Pilates. I can't teach Pilates well at all. I wouldn't even want to. I can do it, but it's fabulous. It's fabulous for core training and for all those other things. So Pilates, yoga, I can tell you that there's like 100 versions of yoga, and it all depends on the teacher you get. My 22-year-old daughter, who's a trainer in Florida, she has never gotten into yoga ever. She had no desire to. She wanted to do triathlons, and that was her thing. And in this little studio she works at down there, the wife of the owner has a yoga studio on the other side. Jenny was never interested in it, but all of a sudden one day she had a new client, and they're standing near the owner, and the new client asked about yoga. And she said, well, what's this yoga class you got going on? And the owner said, well, Jenny's going to be there. Why don't you just show up together? And you know what, though? Here's the thing. Jenny showed up. She happened to get connected with a teacher who teaches like me, meaning breathe. And it doesn't matter if you're loud. I want you to be loud. And she's been going ever since. She loves it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I would do a shameless plug for that too, because then Brenda and I have talked about yoga with Adrian on YouTube. It's free. Because I was one of those total yoga naysayers. And I said, I keep trashing this. That was one year I did it as a New Year's resolution. Like, I'm going to try this. And like Chantel said, with the Pilates and the stretching, I was surprised I didn't suffer on my runs. I maintained my strength and stronger in a lot of areas. But then I like Adrian's style because it's just really easy. You can fall over and you laugh and you do that. It's a different way of moving your muscles, but so many benefits in a lot of different ways. So yeah.
And I think yoga with Adrian, she has versions for every level, and she has her talk applies to all of us. It's not the kind of it's not yoga language, and it's very easy to comprehend. All of my clients have loved her. All of them, all ages have loved her. Yeah. Yes,
I'm
yes.
just looking through. Did you see any? I was just looking through the comments quick. Does anybody, I didn't see any comments on the Facebook Live. That was one thing I was checking, but I
Oh.
also wanted to, I think there was one more question, and it might have been one of mine selfishly. But if anyone else has any questions, we've got all this great information. Is there something that it's maybe triggered for you? Again, I apologize. Unmute yourself, please.
Well, we can also, when this gets posted, you can tag it and just I'll remind people they can ask questions, and I can get on there and answer any questions they might have.
Okay. Yeah, only one question, and this is something you and I had talked about, was I remember it was a video you did, I think it was on your training page about,
Yes.
and you were laying on the ground and it was a breathing thing, and it was all about, gut health, but also, strengthening your core. Could you talk about
Yes.
that? I thought that was amazing.
Yes, I will. And I'll actually get on the floor and I'll show you, okay? Because I think I can do that right here. But let's just say, I've showed this exercise is one of the very first core exercises I ever learned in my training 14 years ago, when I was so geeked to learn it. And when every client I would tell, they'd be like, everybody thinks you have to do 100 crunches or 100 sit-ups, okay? A lot of people kind of blow this off, but I'm telling you, it is key. And my massage therapist, she was like, that is key. That's where it's at. So I'm going to show you, this is an abdominal exercise. It is a breathing exercise. So you get double whammy. It's very important. And when I first read about this years and years ago, it said, if you do 10 of these, it is equal to doing 100 crunches without hurting your back ever. Okay. And the important thing is to remember is fully exhale. I'm going to show it to you, but I can't talk and do it at the same time. You want to fully exhale to the point of coughing, which is going to be easy for me here today because it's very dry. Okay. I can tell my voice is already getting dry. So I'm going to go on the floor and I'll show you really quick. And Paula, just talk out loud and tell me if you can or cannot see me.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we're laying on the floor, just nice and relaxed. Okay. Feet are on the floor, knees are up. The belly button's here. You want to inhale, and then you're going to exhale. It's going to look like this.
Breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. The last bit of air.
And then you gasp for air and you take a break and catch your breath. Okay. It's nearly impossible for me to even do 10 of those very fast. Matter of fact, by the 5th one, I'm like, okay, I might do the rest tonight. So, but I'm telling you, that works your transverse abdominis. And if you could spend any time learning about one new muscle, learn about your transverse abdominis. It is, I'll tell you what I call it with all my clients. I say, squeeze your nature's girdle. It's nature's girdle. It attaches right here at the back on your spine. It wraps around like a girdle right up through here. It is deep. It is on top of your organs and underneath your rectus abdominis or your 6-pack, okay, and your obliques. It's deep muscle. You can't really dig in and feel it, but it's the muscle that squeezes when you go shh or stop it, okay? Or when you're going to the bathroom. That's the muscle, that's your transverse abdominis. It's very important to learn about that and learn how to use it because most people don't even know about it. So nature's girdle, and we should have it 10% engaged all the time when we're standing. When you're standing, it should be, well, when you're sitting too, because you want an upright spine, okay? But it should be engaged 10% unless you're laying down relaxing, okay? It's not much different than your leg muscles being slightly engaged to hold you up. Okay. So there's a little extra lesson.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was like $100 bonus right there. Thank you.
Good, good.
I'm so sick of crunches.
Oh, you know what? This is what I tell my clients. I do have clients do crunches sometimes for mental acclimation. Okay. Just to get the mind attached to what does that feel like? But I always train my clients, if you know how to use that nature's girdle, you should never really have to spend time doing 20 minutes of abdominal work, because your abdominals are already stronger, because you should be using them in everything you do. Squats, my push-ups, if you ever watch, I have a few videos I've done of me doing army style push-ups. The reason I can do those is because my abdominal is pushing my lower half up, because they're not easy. And if you watch closely, you'll see that my whole body goes up, but then my hips go up because I'm pushing with my belly. And you use that belly muscle, and I'm telling you, things will be amazing.
Well, and I like the fact too, when you talk about that, because that's one thing that yoga has taught me too, is just standing erect. And I think Peggy, my mom, had mentioned about, her posture, and how we so easily slouch. I find myself during the day, which I think I'm straight, but I'm not, and so I always try to keep, pulling that belly up just to keep my spine in alignment. And
Yes.
boy, your mood, it's almost an instant mood changer. You just like, oh, I'm in a better mood just standing straight.
Absolutely. And the reason we slouch is because that muscle's weak. And it's so hard to sit up tall when that muscle's weak and we don't even know it. And I've experienced it myself, which is why I can tell you. And even over this year, I have a stand-up desk right here. It's one that you can lower down and lift. And I said to myself, I cannot sit like that. It caused me so much trouble when I was starting to do more computer work. So going from sit to stand and continuing to engage that muscle is super important.
Super important. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments?
I think I'm full for today. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It is a lot of information. It's a lot of information, actually.
Yeah. Well, can't thank you enough, Brenda. I always learn so much from everything that you do. We've got the links in the group, so you can tag her and go check out her training pages and her personal pages, and it links. BLT training is the training page, correct?
Brenda Lewis Training.
Oh, sorry. Brenda Lewis Training is the training page.
Yeah, I know.
And
the logo's BLT, but it's Brenda Lewis Training.
Brenda Lewis Training. Great. Thanks. So yes, thank you very much. Very, very, very awesome.
Thank you for having me.
And next week, you'll be back at 12 o'clock Pacific again, and then you're going to be talking about low energy state. Can you give us a quick 1 minute on why we need to be there?
Yes. I love talking about this subject because I watch so many women specifically diet, and then it gets hard. They have no energy and they don't understand why. And so I like to talk about this and reassure them that you can change that with your diet.
Yay.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm super excited for that topic because I've gotten just enough of it, but I'm looking forward to the whole enchilada.
Good. Good. I look
Great.
forward to it.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for being on. We're going to have this, it's recorded, so we'll upload it to the group, and then it'll be available on my page as well. So if anybody has any questions or extra comments, put them in the comments. And sounds like Brenda's going to be available to respond to those, and we'll give you a heads up. So thanks again, everybody. Have an amazing day. Great to have you here.
Take care. Be safe.
Yep. Bye-bye.